But Alan, wasn't our grand finale with Christie last time? What's this?
Yes, it was, but as Shakespeare says, many a slip between cup and lip. We've had a star guest on, and although we both really need the summer break, we really have had to slot something extra in. And so we have Jay, the vocal coach, today with us.
Yes, and what an episode it was.
What an episode it will be.
What an episode it will be, yes. Let's take that again. Oh, yes, and what an episode this will be.
Okay, thanks, Pontus.
Good.
Welcome, Jay. There's been a lot of buzz around the Angelina community because you are new to it and you have done 4 or 5 reactions to Angelina songs. And as a vocal coach, you have a bit of a unique spin. You highlight specific points about the history of the song or the genre or Angelina's style, which makes we angels who have heard her very much sit up and take notice. You make a lot of fresh new points, and 2 or 3 people from the community have said, hey, you two need to get this guy on the podcast. We're going to dip you into the baptismal pool and get you all wet tonight.
Wonderful. Yeah, I feel like I've only just not even scratched the surface of what I know she can do and what I've been told she can do. So I'm excited to really delve in deep into the girl with the 1,000 voices.
I don't know, Alan. Do we have an episode that is called The Girl with 1,000 Voices?
Well, we do now.
So you've talked a little bit about Alan and gone through all of her songs because there's a great website that has collected all of the songs. It's by Jan.
When I was Zooming last week with Jay, I said, let's look at all 200 plus covers that she's done. We went through it very slowly. And Jay's reaction was, what? She did that one? I can't imagine how she would do it.
There were a handful that I was just taken aback by, like, she did who, by what? And so I'm excited to look at it. I haven't heard any of these.
And so we have 11 on the list, but Jay's priority was to capture the full panorama of what she does. And so, Pontus, you and I are the teachers tonight, and Jay is our very willing pupil. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You are a vocal coach.
I've been a vocal coach for about 8 years now, and I attribute most of what I teach to Jeannie Lovetri and her teachings of somatic voice work. Angelina is a huge fan of Adele, but Adele actually contacted Jeannie to help her rehabilitate her voice right before the New Year's special that she did, which is the reason why you see like this big shift now with Adele's technique, because she contacted this very legendary vocal coach to help her out. I use those methods pretty often, and also the still voice teaching method. I'm a big fan of that. I have my master's in songwriting degree from Berklee College of Music, so that's why I like to approach some of the reactions that I do from the songwriting standpoint. And I am a a professor of music technology at George Mason University, so I also understand the tech aspects of recording, production, and engineering. So I have a pretty extensive background in music.
You're too young to have all that in your past.
You know, you would think that, but I'm also just bored and curious. I love music, so I want to learn everything about the process of like how records are made, how the vocals are delivered, how they're recorded and put together. I'm just inspired by it all.
In the last 3 or 4 years since I've been associated with Angelina, I'm really more impressed with how music really grabs your soul and just toys with it.
But before we dive into the songs themselves, let me hear a little bit about your first encounter with Angelina and your feelings on her artistry so far.
One of my subscribers, Pool Hall Shark, left me a really amazing, incredible recommendation comment for me to take a look at Angelina. They recommended that I take a look at her I Put a Spell on You cover. And it was a unique experience for me and very special because that's the type of music that I love. That's like what I grew up on. So when I first started as a teacher, that was my niche, working with the younger students. I'm just showing them what they already have. I'm just helping them explore their sound and their different unique voices, like what's already there. So it was incredibly inspiring and interesting for me to look at that particular cover because she was doing so much with her voice and showcased like a really deep, profound understanding of that song, but also the way that Screamin' Jay Hawkins approached it from his unique vocal standpoint. She typically doesn't do that type of screaming or distortion sound effects. That was a one-off thing. But either way, I was still impressed that she was able to pick up on that and emulate it in a way that sounds good.
Isn't she an expert in producing sounds with all her capabilities?
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I would agree with that. It's a very textured voice.
Yeah, it almost feels like she can do any sound she wants to and incorporate that whenever she needs to.
Yes. But what I like most about her is that I think she understands and knows that she can do that, but she reserves it for when she thinks it's appropriate, which I think is a very deep level of artistry that not a lot of singers are able to do. That takes a while to be able to understand.
So we had a list of 11 different songs that Jay said, oh, she's done that? I can't imagine how she's done that song. And if Jay had the time, then we have the inclination to go through that list.
All of them are interesting in the way that we can actually deep dive into the 1,000 voices that she can do.
Let's start with Young and Beautiful because that is a really substantial song.
I've seen the way, done it all, had my cake now. Diamonds brilliant and violet now. Hot summer nights in July, when you and I went forever wide. Crazy days, city lights, the way you play with me like a child. Will you still love me when I'm no longer young and beautiful? Will you still love me when I got nothing but my aching soul? I know you will, I know you will, I know that you will. Will you still love me when I'm no longer beautiful?
I love the focus on the overall tone and the shape of the vowel that she's doing here because when it comes to Lana, her thing is not belting, it's not range, it's not even the whole range of colors. It's really this round kind of dark sound that perfectly fits her aesthetic overall as an artist. I've seen it all, done it all, had my cake now. And there's this little bit of vocal fry added to it as well that kind of adds just a little bit of texture to like certain words. Very cool.
I've seen the world lit up as my stage now, channeling angels in the new age now. Hot summer days, rock and roll, the way you play for me at your show, and all the ways I got to know your pretty face, an electric song. Will you still love me when I'm no longer young and beautiful? Will
So smooth.
beautiful. Dear Lord, when I get to heaven, please let me bring my man. When he comes, tell me that you let him in. Father, tell me if you can. Holy grace, all the body, all that face makes me wanna party. Is my son, he makes me shine like a diamond. Will you still love me when I'm no longer young and beautiful? Will you still love me when I got nothing but my aching soul? I know you will, I know you will, I know that you will. Will you still love me when I'm no longer beautiful? Will you still love me when I'm no longer beautiful? Will you still love me when I'm not young and beautiful?
That's so funny. She ends this very dark, somewhat depressing song like that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the way that she emphasizes the word will in the chorus. Because normally that's a throwaway word in the context of a lot of lyrics, but in this song, it's really important.
I know that you will.
No, you will. I know you will. She kind of leans into it, and there's this dark, just deep desperation in it that's accented by the way she's doing a slight crescendo. It's like a very small detail, but if you notice, she did it throughout the entire chorus, and I think it really added a lot. I also really like the, it was like the word diamond. She did like this little bit of a smile. Diamond. And just added this little bit of shimmer with the vibrato, and it's a small detail, but again, it just makes that word just feel that much more special in the context of everything else.
Like a diamond.
I think that's a signature sign of an Angelina song, that there is, in the song itself, you can get your favorite moments where there is a sound or a word that she does in a really special way that stands out. And I too, I'm so glad you picked up on the diamond, because that's one of my favorite parts in this song, when she sings that word.
I've heard that song 100 times, and I never noticed that she emphasizes the word will. That's why we have a professional vocal coach on to point things out that us ordinary mortals will not hear and will not recognize.
Yeah, you pick up on small things, especially if you're a songwriter yourself. It adds a whole new layer to your understanding of music, and it makes you think like, okay, I'm saying this song this way. So when you go back and revisit other people's songs, okay, why is this particular word, why might it be more special or more important than the next one? So I love that she also writes her own music. I think that might give her like a deeper understanding in terms of just thinking about like the overall phrasing.
One of the things about Angelina is the way she highlights words or rearranges words, or she can sing a line and there can be 6 or 8 different words and they will each have a different tone or emphasis. And I can listen to her and just do double take after double take.
Another little small detail I noticed is that she wasn't afraid to play around with some of the rhythms of the words, like she would extend them or shorten them, which I think is another small detail. But I've heard the song enough to just notice that type of thing, and it makes me curious as to her thought process. Oh, why did she do that? There's no doubt in my mind there had to be a reason.
How much of the creativity in how you sing a word or a phrase is just based upon your feeling at the moment, and how much is actually planned beforehand? Okay, this is the way. She rehearses, but we know because Alan interviewed 2 of the guitarists that she has played with, and they said that most takes were like 1 take, maybe 2, not so many 3 takes. So it was very spot on right from the get-go. But of course, she's familiar with the songs and she's heard them before. But that would be really interesting to get a glimpse into her creative process. How much is impromptu and how much is really rehearsed?
Well, Angelina, if you're listening to this podcast, do come on and join us. You have a lot to explain to us. We have a lot of questions for you.
But I did want to add, the reason I picked this song is because I was really curious to like explore her ability to take on the role of these different artists, because I know she has that nickname, the girl with 1,000 voices, and Lana Del Rey has a very, very distinct voice. Also, from a spiritual and branding kind of standpoint, I think that they're actually very similar artists, very akin to each other in the fact that they call back to a lot of past references. They also both have very similar Priscilla Presley hair. And for Lana, most of her music is about this longful, wispy longing for the days of past. And it just seems like even the way that they dress is very similar. Lana would probably be on like Angelina's vision board.
You didn't pick out the other song that Lana did, Born to Die. It's one of those things where you do a double take when she starts singing. There's this young girl and out comes this grown-up voice that is so resonating.
Is she younger in this one?
I'm thinking about the same age.
Yeah.
I don't dare to say the age. Do you, Alan?
No. We've been corrected too many times. This particular song of Born to Die, when she was singing it, her mouth is behind the microphone, and one of the people who had just discovered her not believe it was her and needed to hear a second and third video before he actually would believe that it's her singing.
Feed on for me now. Take me to the finish line. Oh, my heart is raced every step that I take, but I'm hoping that the gates, they'll tell me that you're mine.
Yes, come on, Tone.
Walking through the city streets, is it by mistake of design? I feel so alone on the Friday nights. Can you make it feel like home if I tell that you're mine? It's like I told you, honey. Don't make me sad, don't make me cry. Sometimes love is not enough and the road gets tough. I don't know why. Keep making me laugh. Let's go get high. The road is long, we carry on. We try to have fun in the meantime. Come and take a walk on the wild side. Let me hug your heart in the pouring rain. You're like a girl's insane. Choose your last words. This is the last time. 'Cause you and I, we were born to die.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. I like the subtle lyric change to I'll hug you hard in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
Mostly because the only reason I noticed that is because A, this is one of my favorite Lana songs, but B, like this song is very adult. So it's an interesting song choice for a child, but the way that she delivers it is spot on. It makes total sense for the song itself, for her to that same cool like round shape throughout, and it just add this little bit of raspiness. I like the little bit of texture and vibrato she added to Wild Side in the chorus.
Come and take a walk on the wild side.
I think that adds a lot to that word in general. And that's the one part of the song where we start to get into a different part of the voice. So her just adding that little extra element just makes it that much more special.
You're such an expert. You really pick on the exact things.
I love the small details. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Angelina is all about the small details. That's what she thrives in, and also the layering of things is also important for her, I think.
And I mean, with a song like this, it's not so much about the range or the belting. Like with Lana, it's all about the attitude. It's all about the way that she says certain things, and her vibe, her aesthetic is just cool. For Angelina, that's perfect because she gets to focus on the melodic line, which Lana is it's one of my favorite songwriters. So she can write melodies with the best of them. So it's wonderful to see an artist like Angelina be able to add a different take to it as well.
Yeah.
Because I've heard the song dozens and dozens of times, I'm looking at you when the song starts, not Angelina. And the first 3 seconds, you're taken aback. It's like you're knocked back in your chair. And so let's see if we can have 10 in a row tonight.
We have Without Me. That's a Halsey song. Not many people find this one.
Jay is a professional coach, and so I expect him to know every single song on the list. That's his job.
I chose artists that have very distinct voices.
Yeah.
And Halsey's one of them. So I'm just curious, how would Angelina, with her very dark and textured voice, how would she cover this more ethereal, airy voice?
Found you when your heart was broke. I fill a cup until it overflowed. Took it so far to keep you close. I was afraid to leave you on your own. I said I catch you to fire, and if the light don't show 'em out. And then I got you from near, put you right back on your feet, just so you can take advantage of me. Tell me all the things up there, feeling so high, but you're far away to hold me. You know I'm the one who put you up there. Deep in the sky doesn't ever get lonely. Thinking you can live without me, thinking you can live.
And I was just getting into it too. That was actually really, really good.
Yeah.
Angelina, go back and do the whole thing. Well, one thing I noticed with that one that was different from some of the other ones is just the amount of in singing terminology. It's just called constriction, which is basically just a holding of the jaw here. And normally that's seen as a thing that you typically want to avoid because it can lead to strain. But in this context, it works because that's the type of singer that Halsey is. Again, it's not necessarily about the belting or the extreme volume levels. It's more about the texture and the intrigue of she saying certain words. I like the way that Angelina played around with the word just me in this song. Me. Like she just leaned into it a little bit more, just got a little bit louder on it and added a bit of vibrato wherever she could. It's the title of the song. So if you're going to pick a place to kind of try to emphasize or make it more special, that would be where to do it. It would be a very intelligent choice.
Summertime is up next.
Summertime and living is easy.
The way she just went to the word dad, like that high note, it's like perfectly in line volume wise with everything. And that's really impressive because most people have kind of a separation between their registers. Most people have like a severe imbalance with the chest register and head register, but hers is just kind of very smooth and even throughout. That's a difficult thing. That's what I spend most of the time working on with like adult students. So the fact that she was able to do that so easily is very impressive. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
I think when you look at her in this performance, it's pretty evident that she's in her own world when she's singing this song.
Yeah, the others were excellent as well, but this one you can tell there was just a different level of focus. When you're in your element, it's the best feeling in the world as an artist when you're really singing the kind of music that speaks to your
Yeah.
soul, and you can tell that this is what speaks to her.
This is a song that she sang when she was 8 years old in the final of Norway's Got Talent. And it's a monumental performance as well. But they're all monumental in different ways.
And one thing I want to comment on is just her ability to embrace the microphone. I find it interesting that her favorite singer is Billie Holiday. When I was in college, I I had to write a very long paper on her. I just love that about her as well because I adore Billie Holiday. And a lot of people don't know this about her, but she was really the first artist to embrace the microphone itself as a tool to extend the voice. Prior to her, you just had singers just trying to project all over the place. A lot of them were actually scared of it. So the engineers would have to cover the microphone in tarps just to get the other artists to feel comfortable in front of it. But Billie Holiday was the first to just get right on it like this and explore the different textures. Because it makes a difference if you pull the mic back. It starts to get kind of thin and kind of wispy. You get more S sounds, and here you can hear like all the bass. So the way that you use the mic makes a big difference, and it seems like she really understands what she's doing and that the mic itself is an extension of your instrument.
Let's move on to Skyfall. She's just 7 years old here.
One thing I like about that one a lot is that she honed in on something that is very specific to Adele singing the song, which is the way that she kind of phrases her vows. Let the sky fall, let it crumble. She has this interesting mixture of bright to dark, and that's it's a very small detail, but it's something that's like, unique to Adele. So that just lets me know again that she certainly does her homework.
Isn't that also an important aspect of a great artist, that you have to have the ability to really listen?
Absolutely. As vocalists, it's really easy to distinguish vocal registers, head, mix, chest, but not all of them can distinguish between the differences of these spectrums of vowel qualities, meaning bright, like a more spread vowel, and dark. And there's also like a place somewhere in the middle. So to be able to catch up on something like that, that's a really small detail that most
Yeah.
people wouldn't pay attention to.
This podcast is called Wrapped in a Warm Blanket. That was something we stole from one of the reactors that said that the sound made him feel like he was wrapped in a warm blanket.
Pontus, I thought you came up with the term wrapped in a warm blanket because you live in Sweden and it's very cold there.
So next is Hurt.
I think it's really interesting that she and Christina Aguilera have very similar origin stories. They were both child stars that grew up listening to these kind of soul icons. For Christina Aguilera, it was Etta James, and that was her big influence in the same way that you can see Angelina reflecting Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald, that era of singer as well. I like that she would even choose a song like this, just because we've been talking in terms of like Angelina singing and voice. We've been mentioning like her tone, her phrasing, and just her ability to do the small detailed stuff. But Christina's approach to songs is the complete total opposite. Hers is very bombastic, and she's like, I'm gonna give you everything with the range and riffs and runs. But Angelina still managed to do it her own way. This type of song, like anything in Christina, Whitney, Celine, that type of catalog is very easy to oversing. But she was doing it in a way that seemed very easy and natural for her. I would be curious to see what like this one would sound like now, because I mean this song is like a tough order.
Okay, shall we move on to Man in the Mirror? She's not singing as much in this one.
In that case, Pontus, maybe we should do Billie Jean. Let's do that because we want to see Jay's head go back again.
She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, what do you mean? I am the one who will dance on the floor in the round. She said, I am the one who will dance on the floor in the round. She told me her name was Billie Jean as she caused a scene, and every head turned with eyes that dreamed of being the one who would dance on the floor in the round. People always told me, be careful what you do. Don't go around breaking young girls' hearts. And my mother always told me, be careful who you love. Be careful what you do, 'cause a lie becomes the truth. Yeah. Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one. But the kid is not my son. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She said I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Yeah, 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 yeah. For 40 days and for 40 nights, the law was on her side. But who can stand when she's in the main? Her schemes and her plans. 'Cause we danced on the floor in the round. So take my strong advice. Just remember to always think twice. Don't think twice, don't think twice. She told my baby we danced to 3, and she looked at me and showed a photo of a baby crying. His eyes were like mine, 'cause we danced on the floor in the round, baby. Hey, hey, hey. People always told me, be careful what you do, and don't go around breaking young girls' hearts. But she came and stood right by me, just to smell her sweet perfume. This happened much too soon. She called me to her room. Hey, oh, Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one. But the kid is not my son. No, 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 Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one. But the kid is not my son. Yeah, 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 but the kid is not my son. She says I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Not my son. No, 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 no. No, no, yeah.
What? That's such an interesting take on that song. I love that she is not afraid to also play around with the tempo. The reason that I think it works so well is because the slowing down of it makes the overall song seem like it's more of a cautionary tale. This obviously feels completely different than the original song, but I still feel like she kept the integrity of the song. She kept the heart of the song alive here. If you're going to cover a song by an artist, it needs to either be better or you just need to go a completely different route and do it in a way that the song makes sense to you. And I feel like with Angelina, she made the smarter choice here. I'm not gonna try to imitate Michael Jackson of all people because that's crazy. I'm going to just take the heart of this song and the bones and really shape it and do it in a way that resonates to me. She's singing it in a very dark, almost sultry way, and it's almost like she is taking on the character that she's describing, which I think is an incredibly new twist to this song. It's like now we feel this character's presence even more because her voice matches what she's describing that this person doing.
She's an empath, and that is her secret because she's an empath, and that takes the song to a different dimension.
But this cover, it was like, we're going to take a jazz version of it, but it still feels like serious. It still feels like the point of the song was what they were trying to keep alive.
She tells a story here. I really admire Michael Jackson, and I really liked this song before, but I never could understand what it was about until I heard Angelina's version. Then the story of it just came through.
His version almost seems like it's going on in the moment, like he's dealing with this as he's performing, whereas this one kind of feels like it's the aftermath of like dealing with the situation. So very interesting.
Yeah.
Are there many more songs on the list, Pontus?
Love and Kelsey. I don't think I've heard that. When She's 18 with Anthony Harvey.
I used to think that I wasn't fine enough, and I used to think that I wasn't wide enough.
Yes.
But I won't waste my time trying to figure out why you playing games. What's this all about? I can't believe you're hurting me. I met your girl, what a difference. What you see in her, you don't see in me. But I guess it was all just a make-believe. Oh, love. Never knew what I was missing, but I knew once we start kissing, I found love.
Yes, you better sing.
Never knew what I was missing, but I knew once we start kissing, I found love.
Aw. That was so good. That's one that she should do the whole thing for.
Well, that was amazing.
Keisha Cole is another person who I grew up listening to, and she has a very distinct voice that is very different from Angelina's. The closest singer I would compare her to now is Camila Cabello. It's like a very bright, kind of in your face, very riffy type of singers. One of the big reasons I was curious to listen to her tackle that song is because it has a very difficult riff on the word love in the chorus section, and Angelina switched it up, but it still seemed just as hard as ever. This one almost felt like a more vulnerable version of that song to me, and it's already a stripped back R&B ballad that's supposed to feel that way. The piano and the way that she was going in and out of her head register was adding a lot to the vulnerability of that. Different register qualities have different connotations with the emotional contact. So if you go into a breathier, headier space, it's going to seem softer. It's going to seem more vulnerable. It's going to seem more heartfelt. Whereas if you're super belty and loud, it's going to convey more anger and passion behind it. And that was beautiful.
She's teased her fans with a lot of very short songs, and it's like lifting up a rock and finding a diamond.
There's a lesson in every single thing she does, is something that she can learn from.
I think she's just singing because I really, really like this song. I like the song so much, I want to sing it.
How does she even knows this song?
She soaks it all up. She listens to all different types of music. And you
Wow.
can tell from all the different genres she's covered.
And here's another genre.
This song has been done so many times before. The tricky thing with a song like that is how are you gonna put your own spin on it? What are you gonna do that's like different? And even though she's just rehearsing it, you can already see what it is that she's contemplating with using her tone to her advantage here and almost painting this picture more of this character. Even the way that she's singing the title, Jolene, she kind of leans more into, she goes from bright to a darker vowel there and just holds it with a little bit of grit. So there's almost this sense of agitation with this person that I don't necessarily know that is in the original. So it's just this added layer of emotional content with just one word. And I also like the addition of the other new little riffs that she was adding in there as well. And she saved them for the chorus section of the song. When it started to repeat, that's when you generally want to start adding those kind of theatrics to add some variety in there. Some other singers, just to like showcase their voice, will do that all the time and think, I'm going to make this version of Jolene just the craziest thing you've ever heard. But I like that she showed restraint because at the end of the day, it's still about the song. You still want to respect the message in the song and the message.
I guess that's a big theme. She has this respect for the song itself.
That's a real difference between a singer and an artist who is wanting to just showcase their voice and who is actually trying to showcase the music.
Yeah.
And I think that's a subtle but a big distinction. Anybody can be like a halfway decent singer. It's not actually that hard. It starts to become second nature. It's like playing a sport. Your body becomes used to what you're asking it to do. But you also have to train the emotional aspect of it to be able to understand the small intricacies of a song like that.
What impresses me about Angelina is the thought behind it. It seems she's very intelligent and she really hones in on stuff that's important and just has a feel for how to do it. It's almost like, this is the correct way to do it. Now I know.
Jay, every single song that we've heard, you have pointed out something that I did not know or I had not noticed. That's why we have you on the podcast.
That means I did my job.
Yeah. It means you're very good at your job, too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
She seems like a more introspective person to me, like more on the quiet side. And generally, I find with people like that, because I'm like that. So for me, the reason I love music so much and singing is because it kind of allows me to express myself in different ways, in subtle ways that I just would never be able to do outside of just myself, just like holding a conversation with somebody. And perhaps it's like that for her as well. She feels like music really allows her to paint these pictures and use these words in a way that she would never be able to otherwise.
Thank you, Jay. I think you're the only introverted person who's agreed to come onto the podcast. That's usually the reason people don't come on, because they're introverted.
Yeah, I'm more on the quiet side, but I love talking about music.
Great. Okay, so next up is Bust Your Windows, and we have actually two versions here. Why this song?
It falls into the realm of like Keisha Cole category, where it's very much a song that sounds of its time, very like 2000s. But also Jasmine Sullivan is a spectacular vocalist who actually I don't think is that different from Angelina. They both have huskier, richer voices. It's just that Jasmine, because of the genre that she works within, is very skilled at riffing. So I was just curious. And also, it's just a funny song to me. In general, it's a song about like breaking your ex's car window. So I was just curious to see what it would sound like with her doing it.
I bust the windows out your car, and no, it didn't mend my broken heart. I'll probably always have these ugly scars, but right now I don't care about that part. I bust the windows out your car. I bust the windows out your car, and no, it didn't mend my broken heart. I'll probably always have those ugly scars, but right now I don't care about that part. I bust the windows out your car after I saw you laying next to her. I didn't wanna, but I took my time. I'm glad I did it, 'cause you had to learn.
Why does she tease us like this? I really want the whole thing. I like the use of the vibrato and kind of like spreadness there that she was using. That's a different kind of sound for her, but it works really well. And again, it's all saved for the emphasis on certain words. Bust the windows out your car. She saves it for her in turn as well. Like she used that for a number of words. And again, with pop music, a vibrato especially is usually reserved for key words, and a lot of people don't necessarily know that or talk about that. So there's some singers that just add it to everything, but that's more appropriate for classical styles. I wish there was more to it.
Yeah. Try the other version when she's 18.
I bust the windows out your car, and no, it didn't mend my broken heart. I probably always had those ugly scars, but right now I don't care about that part. I bust the windows at your car after I saw you laying next to her. I didn't wanna, but I took my turn. I'm glad I did it, 'cause you had to learn.
Oh, this one actually feels like it's less of her trying to do that more spread sound that Jasmine does, and this seems more like now I'm gonna do it in a sound that resonates to me, but still makes sense with the song. Also, I think the piano track here helps her out quite a bit in that it just feels like it's more authentic to like her and her kind of artistry and sound.
Some songs she has covered 10 or 20 times over 5 or 10 different years.
Yeah.
And that's a whole library in itself. You can make video upon video about her growth and her reinterpretation, whether you're comparing it to the original or not.
We are so very grateful to her grandmother because she's the one behind the camera in most cases, especially when she was very young. So we have that documentation.
That's so cool. And I love that this catalog exists because it dispels this weird myth that I think exists among singing in general. A lot of people just think that you just either pick it up or you don't. You either have it or you don't. And that's just not the case. No other musical skill is treated that way. But with singing, there's this connotation that, oh, that person was born talented or that person just always had it. And I mean, Angelina had solid stars, but you can see the growth. As a singer, you can get better. I don't think people talk about that enough. You can learn, you can adapt. Singing is a sport from an artistic perspective. You can grow as a person and approach a song in new, different ways that you probably never even thought of before.
Because with her being recorded by her granny from such a young age, it's not like you're going to be famous whether you like it or not. It's more like you're going to be famous and you're going to be blessed with it as well. Big difference.
How much can she improve? Is there a limit to how much you can work on your skill set?
I don't believe so. There's always little intricacies in your voice that you can find to work on. And even if it's not that, you may have all the skills that you need already, but there may be a certain part in a song where you're like, oh, I want to find like this new texture or this new way to sing this that I might just have not experimented with before.
What I'm learning about this hour, Jay, is that being a vocal coach has unbelievable depth and it's a great speciality. From the outside, I didn't realize that until you started speaking about all the different nuances in a way which just makes me do double take after double take.
Some teachers refer to themselves as either voice teacher or vocal coach. And a voice teacher to me is more so all encompassing, and a vocal coach takes you through the emotional aspects. I feel like it's my job to help people with both because to me, technique without really having the emotion behind it, there's no point to that. For either yourself, it's not fulfilling for you as an artist or singer, and it's also not fulfilling for the audience.
We went on a podcast with a vocal coach just last week, and she writes a newsletter where she says,
Yeah.
to be a singer, you have to connect to your inner self. You have to connect to your emotional world. And for that reason alone, we wanted to do the podcast with her.
And if it's not necessarily your inner self, it has to come from somewhere. You have to understand the big why behind the song.
Two more left. Believe. Is that the chair version?
Yeah.
Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no, yeah. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no.
Very cool. I didn't know she played guitar.
And the piano.
I think a lot of people don't take that song seriously because it's got a lot of auto-tune, but that's the point of that song. She's singing it in the club because she's saying, my life is going to go on. I'm going to celebrate it. But I still love when people do acoustic covers of it like the one Angelina just did, because it shows you that, okay, there's actually depth to this song. It's not just this silly thing that they decided to experiment on with autotune, which, by the way, this is like the first song that popularized autotune for anybody that didn't know it.
Okay, we've come to the finale of this marathon, and that is to choose one of her originals.
You suggested Jazzy Bad Valentine.
And Bad Valentine is a cooperation with Toby Gad.
I stood you up on Valentine, gave you no reason why, decided I cut you off without a tear in my eye. I had to hide when I saw you on some table for two. I knew I'd never see the sunshine with you, so I spent my night with the moon. I thought I told you I would miss up your heart. I warned you right from the start. Roses are red and violets are blue. You are a fool to try, 'cause I'm a bad Valentine. I'm a bad Valentine. Just had a feeling it was time to let the flowers die. Maybe I've gotten so mean to you, 'cause you're always so nice. You even smile when you were hurt, sugar-coated my words. When you shut up and breathe on fire and show me you're a fighter, oh, that's how you lost all your worth. I thought I told you I would miss you. Are blue, and you are a fool to try, 'cause I'm a bad Valentine. Should have known. If you only hear what you wanna hear, you're never gonna know me. Whoa. Should have known. If you only see what you wanna see, I thought I told you I will miss of you. Cause I'm a bad Valentine. No, no, no. 'Cause I'm a bad Valentine.
Yeah, I love how she uses constriction in ways that I didn't even really think of before to convey stifled emotion that she's just holding back. It's just this very cool use of the vowel or lack thereof shaping it that kind of adds to just like the difficulty of getting these words out. Sometimes people, when getting like overly emotional and you know what you want to say, but it's just hard to say it anyway. The other thing I really like about this song is one of my big things when it comes to writing songs is what is the overall concept and does everything else align with it? And I love the overall chorus. The roses are red, violets are blue, because it all fits the narrative, the language of this song about Valentine's Day, right? And just it's all very much in theme with each other. And all the other lyrics as well in the verse section tie back into that overall concept of romance and why this relationship isn't working. The first verse sets up the characters, and I had to hide when I saw you on some table for two. Not only does that lyric perfectly align with the theme, but it does a really good thing that is critical for any type of good writing in general, which is the concept of showing, not telling you. She very cleverly lets us know, like, oh, this isn't working by setting up this situation of this table for two that's she doesn't want to be a part of. Giving us that image is much more powerful than saying, I'm embarrassed to be with you. A picture is worth a million words. So using that lyrical device is very captivating to me. That was great. I'm curious now to go back and check out the original version just to see like how she vocalized different nuances that she added or subtracted in each version.
There's also one that I find very interesting in the way she interprets a classical song. And that's the Mamas and the Papas, California Dreaming, because she does this really new take on it.
Let's have him listen to the first 15 seconds. Strike while the iron is hot. We have a very jazzy approach to these podcasts. We sort of make it up as we go along.
I'm actually glad you said that, because as soon as he said that song title, I'm already envisioning what she sounds like.
You cannot. You
Yeah.
cannot imagine how
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Now I'm more excited.
Great.
All the leaves are brown and the skies are gray. I've been full of work in the such a winter day. I've been 7-1. If I was in the lake, California dreaming, oh, in such a winter day.
Yeah, so that's not what I was expecting. That's not how I envisioned it. It was better, actually. Mostly because if you've heard the original version of it, Mama Cass has this earthy texture. So I was envisioning like something actually pretty close to the original. And this is a completely different take on it. It's going back to the idea of like different register qualities give you a different feeling, a different vibe. So she's more in the head register here. And because of that, it gives you like this airy, ethereal feeling to the song. If you really look at the lyrics, it still works. It still captures the essence of the song without necessarily feeling the need to copy the original verbatim. So that's very impressive. That would be one I would certainly be curious as to like her mindset of like, why did you want to go ethereal with this? What were you trying to capture? She nailed it, but I'm just wondering if like she had like, I would just be curious. Like, what were you thinking here? It was brilliant.
Well, Jay, I think we should have you on the podcast once a week because we certainly have the material. This episode can run and run and run.
I'm so impressed of your knowledge and your quick thinking and your pointing at the details and picking up the small things that really makes a difference.
Thank you so much. It was really unexpected for me to be asked to be on a podcast. I'm very just thankful that I've found Angelina and the community, because I have this thing for very dark and voices that do things in a subtle but powerful way. So for me, it's been just a joy to listen to her range of all these different things that she's able to do intentionally and artistically. That's what I really appreciate about her, is that I feel like she's all about the music and not so much myself. I don't get the vibe of I want to be a star. I'm doing this to elevate myself, even though she should be. She should have a much larger following than she does. But I get the sense that she is really in tune with the music and does it for the love of music.
The best type of celebrities are the selfless celebrities. Modesty can be a virtue, especially if you're famous.
This podcast, we've focused a lot about the singing and the techniques, and we also are interested in how it makes us feel and what type of effects being exposed to this kind of emotional, everyday experiences. What does that make us as humans? Because both Alan and I have sort of changed our lives because being a fan of Angelina, which is crazy. Two old fellas being so affected on somebody that young, but there is something in what she's doing and what she's transmitting to us that is difficult to explain.
I definitely feel like that's the case with Angelina. Hearing music and feeling it early on and being able to express it and communicate it freely, I feel like really changes a person. And I'm not saying that that can't happen with adults, but I just feel like with children, they are naturally kind of more, free.
There's also a fearlessness about Angelina that she just does things. And I think that's also the case with children, that they don't think about consequences or anything. They just do stuff.
Actually had an ulterior motive to get you on the podcast. We wanted to make sure that you didn't lose interest in Angelina. And so now that you have dived in at the deep end, we know you are fully immersed and you will run with this.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you, Jay. You've been great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.